says, my issue with the draft is that JD seemed unprepared when the Steelers jumped the Jets. It's like he didn't know what to do. That's alarming to me. I still stand by it, and there's no way for me to prove it, but I really believe Douglas and Saleh wanted to trade for Rodgers closer to training camp. And I think Woody stepped in and said, I want the primetime games. I want all the coverage. I want all the season ticket sales. I want all the money from the Rodgers thing. Heck, he didn't even take the insurance out on the Rodgers contract. Like, this tells me it's a money issue. And they did it before the draft. It caused them to drop down the 2 spots. We lost Broderick Jones right in front of us because we forced the trade before the draft. But in hindsight, if it happens post-draft, you may have had to give up the 2024 first. So there's a little silver lining in that. Look, I think we should have gone with JSN. I thought a pick to help for the now would have made more sense than a pick to help us in the future. I feel like drafting Will McDonald almost forces Bryce Huff off this team because of our last 2 first-round picks. Matt, your thoughts with the thought of the Steelers jumping the Jets?
Could I put a pin in your balloon here for a second?
Sure.
The Jets put out a video Flight 2023 where they said, I don't even know how many times the scouts back in March and then on draft day were ranking in their order McDonald, the tight end, and then Broderick Jones. So if they were picking and Broderick Jones and Will McDonald were on the board, I think they are taking Will McDonald anyway. I'm not saying I agree with it. I wanted Broderick Jones.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I don't know how much to believe the Flight 2023 stuff because it's such a Jet propaganda. You can easily make movie magic happen with that and say like, oh, man, I really wanted this guy. And, boom.
But Ryan, do you realize the backlash if it came out? Like the idea of keeping so many people quiet.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean? Like, if anybody, like, if they really were lost, like Jack Pisani is saying, like if they were lost, like they couldn't believe they had no plan other than Broderick Jones, which when they were showing the Jets war room, it looked like they were baffled, right? We didn't know what the hell was going on.
They were trying to trade down, I think is what the reports were, right?
Yeah, I think they were Joe Douglas was just taking calls, right? But also, but it looked like, but let's say that really is the case. They thought they had Broderick Jones locked up. They got jumped and they had no contingency plan, which just in and of itself doesn't sound right to me. Doesn't sound like a Joe Douglas thing. But let's say that happened. If they made Flight 2023 or just Flight 23 this time, if they edited it in such a way to make it look like, and they re-recorded Joe Douglas saying, hey man, we really like the tight end, and all the shit that they were saying, and it got out, it would be the biggest shitstorm here in New York. They would be run out of town, dude. And we would have heard about it by now, in my opinion.
I don't know. I feel like every year we say, oh, we got our guy. Like every time, like I don't buy it. There's no way every single draft we're like, yes, that's the guy we wanted. Like I just don't buy it. I don't buy that. I think, it's entirely possible we didn't want Broderick Jones at all. But like, I think they knew once they traded down behind the Patriots, there was a real shot they weren't going to get their tackle. And I think Woody is to blame for the trade happening when it did because of the money aspect of it. Him also trying to get season ticket holders paying for their 2024 tickets in November. Like, all this is about money. Like, there's multiple examples throughout the course of this season where everything is about money. I think Woody wanted the primetime games.
That's a little too tinfoil hat for me. I'm going to be honest.
Is it really? Is that too tinfoil? Really? Why? Why is that too crazy to like?
I don't think there's value. You don't see the value in getting Aaron Rodgers in here before July?
No, I see it, but I don't think that Douglas or Saleh were concerned about it based on their press conferences in March where they were like, it doesn't matter. Like, this guy knows the offense. We're not concerned if you have to do it. And then it just immediately flipped a few days before the draft. Like, that to me felt weird.
No, because there's a natural deadline for these things and negotiations, right? Like there's deadlines that have to be hit.
But the Jets didn't have to do anything. That's what I'm saying. Like the Packers had to trade Rodgers. There was no one else trading for him. The Jets bid against themselves to trade before the draft.
Well, I also think there's value in getting in. How many quarterbacks show up in July and then are good to go in September? They also have to build. It's great he knows the offense. He's got to build chemistry with Garrett Wilson and all these.
But we brought in those guys so he didn't have to. We brought in Cobb, we brought in Lazard, we brought in Boyle, we brought in Billy Turner, we brought in Nathaniel Hackett. Like we made it so it was a coddled system for Rodgers to have that short-term type of like, okay, we need you to get ready fast while you get built up to speed. And I think the Jets pulled the trigger earlier and they lost the tackle because of it.
But they said that they didn't want the tackle, and
yeah,
JD.
Okay, maybe they didn't want the tackle.
The Steelers are trading up in front of us to get the tackle, and that's exactly what happened. It worked. For some reason they wanted Will McDonald that badly. I don't know why, but it's not some this big conspiracy theory on why a team jumped them to grab a tackle and the Jets didn't get a tackle.
No, well, I'm not saying that's the conspiracy. I think Woody definitely forced the trade to happen prior to the draft, and we just happened to lose the tackle because of it. I think Woody forced the trade earlier than it had to happen. And I think we overpaid, even though it wasn't necessarily an overpay for a 4-time MVP quarterback and all that. I'm just saying we were bidding against ourselves. And we just upped the offer against ourselves. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much stock I put into the Woody Medals thing. You know what I mean? With Joe. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people that think, Joe Douglas has said numerous times, again, he wouldn't necessarily tell us, yes, Woody's making me do everything, but he said, like, I don't have any mandates on the money. I have a budget. It's the cap. And, he's like, it's just like, I think a lot of that, like, we know in the past that Woody Johnson has done that, right? Where the coach and the GM were at equal playing field, and him and then Chris Johnson did the same thing where they were the boss and the two guys were at the same level. That's not the case anymore. Like, he hired Joe Douglas to run the team, and I don't think a guy like Joe Douglas would accept that. Like, you're going to make me do stupid shit. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would he do that? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I just struggle to get there as quickly as you do.